Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Lisa Kleypas, the Wallflowers series. I'm essentially going to be talking about the inner four books because there is a prequel titled Again the Magic that I did read last month for the end of July. I did already go over my thoughts on that in that video, so feel free to check that out. I did not pick up A Wallflower Christmas, which is supposed to be after the core four books. And I'm not too sure if I'm going to be reading that in the future. It hasn't piqued my interest, or at least not yet, but I'll eventually obtain it, just not seeing it anytime in the near future. So might as well talk about the core books now. So the Wallflowers is a band of 4 girls that they decided during a season to help each other find their marriage partners, because as women they don't have a lot of opportunities. In order to be able to provide for themselves long term and their families, essentially they have to marry someone with money, or someone that will help benefit them in some way, if it's not money, by class. And that may sound a little bad, but the idea that they're trying to help their families, survive essentially and maintain their lifestyles that they're used to, they have to do this. Now, Annabelle is the first Wallflower who has her love interest with Simon. She is the eldest of all the Wallflowers, and they decide to go from oldest to youngest to help each other. So hers is the first story. She does encounter a slight love triangle, but the chemistry isn't really there with the other love partner. Of course, it's bound to happen with Simon. I have quite a few favorites in here, even the kiss, which is not a spoiler, it's in the prologue. And after the prologue, it jumps 2 years. Annabelle, you can see she kind of always had this dislike for Simon, but there was always this chemistry that she was denying. And they end up, having those moments of togetherness when, for example, when herself and the other 3 Wallflowers are playing rounders, which is, I would say, comparable to baseball. They end up playing it in only their undergarments, and they are caught by Simon and Marcus, the Earl of Westcliff. Simon comes from a background of being the butcher's son, and he did investing in order to earn more money, and that's how he's kind of in the middle of upper and middle class. So he's not fully accepted from his family. They don't understand his need to, invest in things and, pursue a locomotive business and, benefiting from advanced technology advancements, whereas people of the upper class also don't appreciate him moving up because he wasn't born into the peerage, he wasn't born into money, he doesn't come from old money. So there's that prejudice, there's that barrier between both classes for him. Whereas Marcus, the Earl of Westcliff, is an exception of someone who is of the upper class, and he does essentially start a friendship with Simon as well as a partnership with him in order to stay up to date with technology, but also being able to maintain that peerage elite idea, because he's very orderly, and I'll go into depth more when I talk about the next book. But this one's essentially about Simon and Annabelle. I initially thought that this, because it was kind of a hate to love story, or at least on Annabelle's part, whereas Simon was always intrigued by her, I thought that was really well put. And there were moments when it was just the two of them, such as when Annabelle got sick because of reasons, or when they were playing a game. Excuse me, so that was good. Because of that, I ended up giving it 5 stars. So on to the next, I'll end up going into more my ratings overall, where I would rank each book of the series. So next wallflower would be Lillian Bowman. She is an American heiress of a soap and hygiene company, kind of on her, well, of course, father's side. And she and her sister are put into, this English society in order to marry up so they can gain better connections for their family, in order to make a profit within Europe as well as America, something like that. And this is Lillian with Marcus. Now, I will say I really enjoyed this one because it's kind of, those barriers between Americans and English folk in this story. And Westcliff always thought that, Lillian wasn't very ladylike and she thought he was kind of stuck up. But of course, and in the earlier chapters, there's this game of, again, rounders. But this time, Lillian and her younger sister play it with some of the local stable boys and servants of Marcus's household. And when he catches them, instead of yelling at them or, slapping them on the wrist for it, he joins them and they share a game. And for the first time, or not the first time, but he realizes that when he is happy around her, and it's not just a once in blue moon or whatnot, but it's because he came from a difficult past. And you kind of get that idea from, again, the magic, which it wasn't until this book did I make the connection that he is the elder brother of a line from, again, the magic, the female heroine. And he was the only heir of the Earl of Westcliff, the one before him. His mother was kind of negligent. His father had an abusive personality. And Lillian just brings this light in his life. A lot of times in this I thought were funny. Some were slightly problematic. And when I say slightly, I mean I'm okay with it in the book. I don't know about in person, but I was okay with it in the book. When they first have their night together, Lillian is intoxicated, but she wanted him even before she was intoxicated. So they still did things. And I just really enjoyed this story because it's kind of that hate to love as well, but slight friends to lovers. They grow to have an attachment with each other. Westcliff, or Marcus, proves himself. So I will say I did enjoy this the most of all the Wallflower books. And some of my favorite moments include when they share a private kiss when they're trying to hide from some people walking in the garden, or when they're trying to head back to the house before their mother, the daughter's mother, gets back to their room. And they share their first kiss. Marcus can't understand it. There's this little subplot with a perfume, and Lillian's concerned that the only reason he even loves her is because of the perfume, or that he started to grow attached to her was because of a perfume. And I thought that was kind of funny. But I knew at the very end what the real essence he was attracted to, if you know what I'm alluding to. I just think that was really funny. I knew it the whole time. I'm not gonna lie. And what else? There are other moments, obviously, I enjoyed, but I don't want to make this video too long. It's already 9 minutes, and I'm only talking about 2 books so far. Next, I have Devil in Winter. Now, this is supposed to be Evie's story. Evie has a stammer, beautiful redhead. She's described as family, mother, died childbirth. She is the daughter of Ivo Jenner, who was Derek Craving's rival in Dreaming of You, I believe. Yes, for Derek Craving. So Ivo Jenner owned a nightclub, as did Derek, but his wasn't as successful until Cravings burned down in that book, and Jenner continues running his own. But in this book, he is the father of Evie, and he's on his deathbed. Evie wants to be there with him, but she cannot do so until she marries someone and get away from her restrictive, abusive family, both physically and verbally. So she seeks out Sebastian. He has an issue with running out of money because of his family's debt, and as the Viscount, he doesn't really, or at least at the time, he didn't pursue work. So this was a marriage of convenience for them. So I have to say, this wasn't my type of book. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but because Sebastian was a rake and his actions in the second book, It Happened One Autumn, took a long time. It took me a long time to enjoy this book because of his actions in the book before this. You'd understand, but then towards I'd say the latter half of the book, then you get a better idea of his thoughts. I would have appreciated more of his perspective or his history with his family, because this definitely focused more on Evie's difficult past and Evie's side of the family, whereas for Sebastian, they didn't even go to his house. They didn't really talk about his family much. Apparently he had siblings that are unnamed who had died of illness. Father, still very much healthy, but cutting him off with money because there's not enough anymore. And he was a rake. He did some things with Lillian that were unfair in the previous book, but towards the end he does come to reconcile with them and be forgiven and all that. I just felt it was missing those moments where him and Evie were really connecting, aside from the fact that Evie's father's on his deathbed and he's there to be there for her, protective, even saves her at some point, saves her life. But I felt like he could have done more to share his feelings, not so much do actions, because he was very good at doing things for Evie, such as getting a hot brick or whatever, just hot water and putting it in the carriage so to keep her feet warm. Being able to, prepare the funeral because her father does eventually die and they inherit the Jenner's place. He ends up starting to run it himself. But I don't know. It just, because it didn't show much of Simon's evolution with communication anyway, that's where it was kind of lacking for me. But apparently this is a favorite, and when I looked on Goodreads, of all the 4 books, this one's read the most. So, but my opinion, can disagree. It's still a good book. Of the 4, this was my least favorite. Now, lastly, I have Scandal in Spring, and this is about Daisy Bowman. She is the younger sister of Lillian Bowman. This is supposed to be about 2 years after Evie gets together with Sebastian, I believe, or just 2 years altogether from when they first met. But anyway, Daisy, she's kind of very optimistic, but she can also be very understanding about the reality of life. As the youngest daughter, but unmarried, she is pressured by her father to find someone before her season ends, or they're going to put her with someone from home. and that someone is Matthew. So, Matthew Swift. And Matthew is someone who's from America. He and Daisy knew each other when they still lived in America before they moved to England, and were trying to marry them into the peerage. But he used to work, or no, he still worked for her father in America. He was at the time very skinny. They didn't think he was very attractive. They thought he was kind of a kiss up to her father and using them as a way to move up even by marriage. They thought he knew about this idea or this plan to marry into the family, to inherit the hygiene business or soap business. But he didn't. He kind of always had this longing for Daisy, and I really enjoyed that. I will say that the banter and the sibling protectiveness of this definitely pulled through in here, but it kind of showed some sides of Lillian that I didn't like. There were also some parts where it would show Lillian and Marcus being intimate, which I don't think you could fully enjoy in here if you haven't read the previous books. There wasn't a lot, if at all, of Sebastian and Evie. There's actually something that reveals at the very end about Evie, and I wish that there was more to see of them in the aftermath, actually seeing them happy and, any marriage struggles that they may have had. I would have liked to see that, maybe even in the next book. Who knows? That could be in A Wallflower Christmas. I'm not sure. But between Matthew and Daisy, when Matthew finally comes to England under the encouragement of Mr. Bowman, Daisy's father, he finds Daisy wishing at a wishing well, and of course he ends up joining her. She doesn't like him. She's kind of annoyed that he's even present, but of course they end up playing a game as well. I enjoyed the fact that they ended up doing it for hours, and when they were playing this game, they ended up, or at least on Daisy's part, she ended up finding herself enjoying his company, and I thought that was really sweet. The main issue I had with this, however, was the fact that for Matthew, he was hiding a secret. I would have liked to see the secret throughout the book, or at least be hinted at throughout the book, because it felt as if it was done right at the very end. And there's just that moment. I don't know. There's also signs of the other Wallflowers having their first children, and hinted at loss of a child for not Daisy and Matthew, but one of the other Wallflowers. I'm not going to say which one. But yeah, this kind of, you get to see a hint at what marriage life is like for some of them. Matthew's very good with kids. This one was very good. It was still very good. It was just towards the end that the secret that is revealed, after reading the end, the third quarter and anything before that, or the first 3 quarters of the book, I would have liked a little bit more hinting at Matthew's secret and an insider's view of his experience in America, as opposed to it just being all wrapped up within the last few chapters. But overall, now to rank it, I'm going on 20 minutes. Overall, to rank it, my favorite would be the second book, It Happened One Autumn, and just the fact that Lillian and Marcus went from hate to love and kind of friends to lovers-ish, that pulled it through for me. I realized I really enjoy those types of books. Next, I selected Secrets of a Summer Night. Again, hate to love, really enjoyed it, but because of the playful banter in this one and the sports kind of involved sports game was included in here. The moments in the library. That's what made this my favorite. And then this one after, because there's, nursing from health, nursing back to health. There's the class issue, but of course overcoming it, and even saving each other's lives or risking each other's lives to save the other. That was really cute for me. Yeah, and then next I would say Scandal in Spring is my third favorite because, again, this has the banter of the siblings, which I enjoyed, as well as the hate to love on Daisy's part, but then one-sided love on Matthew's part over a long period of time until it's finally realized between them two. There's also a moment they share in the bachelor's house with the key. That's all I'm going to say. Read it if you want to know what I'm talking about. And lastly, Devil in Winter. Now this one also has reformed rake. That's what this is. And I'm not sure if it was just how it was done, or maybe I just wanted more on his side. I would have liked to see more of an evolution instead of being so, brief about his history and why he is the way he is, because that, for me, it didn't sum up essentially what he was about. Although he always treated Evie fair and sweet. I will say that. But of the four, least favorite. So, again, I'm going to go over favorite, Happened One Autumn. Second favorite, Secrets of a Summer Night. Scandal in Spring. Devil in Winter. Now, after that being said, I do think I will be reading more of her books. It's not as if I'm going to go out of my way, though, because I did just do a haul. So I definitely have a lot to get to. I've also been tapping in more to contemporary romances, specifically Kennedy Ryan. I will be going over in a separate video my thoughts on that, along with my, of course, July reads. So that's going to be included in there. I haven't decided if I'll do a video about my thoughts on our authors whose books I've read 3 or more, because I think reading 3 books or more, you would get an idea of whether you like the writing or if it's the story, if it's the plot that's affecting you. But essentially, Lisa Kleypas, I see why people enjoy her books. I enjoyed her books, and she kind of made it work for me for reformed rake, but we'll see. We'll see moving forward. Anyways, thank you for watching. I know I only gushed about the 4 books, but could go on longer. And hey, if you're watching this at 2 times speed, I don't blame you, because I do the same for other videos. Anyways, aside from that, thank you for watching, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.